It's been fantastic.
Oh,
Hey,
look at
there
that.
he is. Hey,
Hey.
Keith.
Hi. Oh, gosh, it's great to see you, Malcolm. I'm not, don't mean it's
Well,
not great
there
to
you
see
go.
anybody
You
else.
can
No, I'm
see
just
me
laughing
at any
at Malcolm.
time. You can always call me, you know.
Well, you just seem so incredibly busy as an IT
Well, I
celebrity,
am
really.
busy, but I'll speak to you anytime, Keith. How's
Oh,
that?
oh, there's love. Okay. Hi, Lisa. So you
Hey, how's
didn't
it
get
going?
totally wiped out by whatever it was, the hurricane anyway. I've forgotten the name already.
No, it's
Harvey.
going
That
well.
was it.
We were
Okay.
lucky.
Carmela, hi. Let's just go through everybody.
Hi.
Bob's on, but I don't see him. So,
I
and
can
then,
hear you though. I'm just
yeah.
finishing off another project. I'll be right.
Okay. Gosh, your desk is a mess.
It gets worse.
Per, I'm pleased to see you. You're unmuted, so I mean you're muted. Sorry, so don't forget to mute yourself if you want to contribute. Blaze, hi. What are you eating? I hope it's healthy. Blaze, can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you.
Okay, Blaze. No, I was gonna say nod if you can hear me, but that's not gonna work, is it?
Hey, it's Roger.
Hi, Rog.
You need to unmute yourself, Roger.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to get Blaze.
Hey, Per, you're on.
Yeah.
Ah, good. Okay. Oh, well, listen, now, this is great. I thought we might not see Lisa. She warned us a bit, but anyway, that's good. Did it blow away one of your houses or all good?
I have one that's about 3 feet and up. The water's up about 3 feet on the stilts, but it's okay. It's not.
Oh,
no
good.
damage.
Oh, if it's on stilts, no, that's great.
So.
Wonderful. And
Where are you, Lisa?
It's wonderful. What?
Where are you, Lisa?
I'm in North Carolina where the Hurricane
Aha,
Florence has been
okay.
hitting.
I
So
see.
my main log house is fine. We didn't even lose power, but our beach house got a little water. But it's okay. Everything's good compared to what we thought it was going to be when it was a Category 4. So
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that looked
Okay.
pretty menacing, didn't it? Yeah.
yes.
Okay, good. Well, later on, I need to ask Malcolm when would be a good time to fly out to upstate New York.
Probably we are here next week. We are away the week after in Colorado, but anything after that's fine.
Okay.
October would be great. Just come.
Okay, well, first of all, let me explain. I've got Per coming to stay for the first 2 weeks of October, so it would be towards the end of October. That would probably work,
fine.
and it needs to be because then the first 2 weeks of November, I've got my darling granddaughter coming to stay. So,
Yeah, and it's likely that our weather is going to get inclement pretty quickly.
Okay,
That's
end
the
of October.
prediction.
End
Yeah,
of October it is then.
Yeah, please do not come when the snow is falling.
No, you told me about that. It sounded pretty grim.
It is grim. But I think you'll be fine. Last 2 weeks in October will be great. So we can talk offline about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Well, anyone got any exciting news to report from the summer? Yeah? Anyone? Malcolm's got exciting personal news and business growth, but anyone getting anywhere or making any impact with Supernoetics, or they're piloting or teaching people simple things that change lives? Anyone doing that? Blaze, can you hear me? Nod. You can. Okay, you can unmute yourself when you're ready and say hello. No? Okay. Not if you heard me, Blaze, then at least we can either... Oh, you did? Good, okay. Well, we'll give you a second or two then.
Vivian sent a message saying that she's unmuted, but she can't speak.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean, I wonder? She's
we
unmuted.
Can't hear her.
Yeah. And mine was on automatic mute when I signed in, but I was able to fix that.
Maybe hover your cursor over the bottom left. You'll see a little thing that says mute on the microphone, or unmute it.
Yeah.
Just click on that to reverse it. There you go. No, we should be able to hear you now.
No.
Oh, crap. Okay. She's downstairs, but I'm not going to try and solve it. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, anyone got any bits of exciting news to report?
Well, I'm just in the process of getting ready. I'm going to do a workshop next Saturday on emotional energy release methods.
Yeah.
A whole variety of them.
I'd love to know what you've got to say or input to things I want to talk about today. Emotional neglect or love starvation, we might call it. Though that could be an interesting topic, so I'd love to see what you've got for it. I'm working towards that. So anyway, I didn't want to dash off straight on that topic. So first of all, let's just say welcome for everybody. Summer's over, so let's get down to some serious intellectual effort for the winter. And let's try and move things and change a lot of lives. I've got this small core of genius people, of course, like about a dozen of us. But I've got hundreds of people backed up that have been a little bit out of touch, well, considerably, now, let's be honest, totally out of touch with for many weeks now. I've just been finishing up a big... Carmela didn't say hi.
Hello.
Sorry, darling. I just suddenly
Right.
realized you're the one I didn't. You're too self-effacing. Anyway, I'm just finishing up this massive book on slimming. I say massive because I wrote it about 3 years ago, but I've ended up making so many corrections. I've virtually rewritten the entire book. So I'm sorry, but what happens is I don't do anything else. I tend to work hours, then I crash because I'm exhausted. So I've got, nearly 1,000 people now to actually start waking up. And it's unfortunate, if you let people go cold and they die off a little bit, it's very hard to revitalize people. So I'm going to have to work on that now. When I say now, I'm finishing the slimming book before lunch today. I'm down to the last 25 paragraphs. I had to just stop before talking with you guys. So if you feel I've been all over the place, I kind of have, really. Our summer didn't work out well, by the way. Everybody's suffering from the same thing, which is far too much heat. It's hot as hell here. It's still over 100 here, 40 degrees for you Europeans. And it's gone on far too long, and we're fed up of it. But we went to Europe and just literally got beaten off by the heat. So Viv and I came back in early August. It was so unpleasant in the south of France, we couldn't take it. So we checked out the hotel early and drove home. That's how bad things were. Anyway, when I got back, it became, first of all, I have the new house. Have you all seen the video of the new house yet? Okay, we love it. Viv loves it.
I haven't had a chance.
No, okay, well, no worries.
Big.
We like it. So that's been a kind of distraction, running around furnishing it and then finishing up the slimming book. So you'll just have to take it from me, or trust me when I say I think I'm done and I think I'm back on the story tomorrow. I hope so. And dear old Pear's coming over in about 10 days, is it? Where are we now? Is it 10 days? No, it's a bit more. 2 weeks, is it?
2 weeks plus.
Yeah, just over 2 weeks, yeah. Looking forward to that, Per.
Me too. I'm working on this telepathic communication course, and
excellent.
I'm having, the basic thing is a video tape, text lecture.
A cassette tape, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, from Bill Robertson, and I'm having this Hydring is editing it. Because I listened to it, and there's some things we need to take out. Yeah,
okay. It can be a bit long and waffly. Strange, man. Strange and clever. Most clever people are strange. Yeah. Anyway, so if you didn't catch that, this is a workshop on telepathy and practicing and learning the skills of telepathy. Per has some experience in this. More so than Hank, I think. Hank's not with us, so I can say that. But Per's done it very seriously, and with a strange character called Captain Bill Robertson.
That was just the pilot, Phil.
Yeah.
He did the pilot, and then I rewrote the course in my way, and he thought it was okay, and then I ran it for about 8 times with 10 people each time.
Right, that's great. Okay, well, online we might do better than that, and of course we're more of a challenge. Then we might be doing telepathic transmissions to somebody in Australia or Sweden or something. We'll see. It could make it more interesting. Anyway, I'm very fascinated with that. I think, as you all know, you've gathered, and I've even remarked from a time or two, I'm having trouble finding out what most interests people. Oh, that reminds me, there's a book I forgot to bring up. Somebody tipped me off, there's a book called Ask. And if you want to know what people want, ask them. Sounds trivial, I know, but it's not that easy to do online. But I think it's something I'm doing the course, I'm watching the videos, and I'm going to have to do it because I'm not in any doubt that we've got tons of very valuable stuff that can change lives, change psyches and relationships and work conditions and all these things. But, you know, where are the people? You know, by now we should have tens of thousands studying it, and it's not happening because I haven't really got the right message. And I think that's all it is. You know, we need to find out what people most want. My list is quite substantial. It's over 160,000 people now, but they're an older demographic. So they're not looking for the same thing as the 20 and 30-year-olds are. And I don't know what the 20 and 30-year-olds are looking for. I've asked a few of them, and most of them, their big issues in life is like, where can I find a Wi-Fi hotspot, and where's the nearest Starbucks? And these are their big life challenges. No, it's seriously, it's been surveyed, and that's what came out. The millennials, I mean, to me, this is indescribably trivial, and they're going to come an almighty crash against a very big brick wall sooner or later.
And
if
the
that
bastards vote.
doesn't change. What, Rich?
And the bastards vote.
That would be worse, yeah, if some of these twats vote in politics. Well, I don't go there, but, you know, what does politics mean if you're dealing with idiots? Do they have the right to vote? Somebody's asked that question. Many people have asked that question over the years.
Having two of those in my family, I would disagree vehemently with your personification there.
I'm generalizing. Generalizations are always bad. Tell us about your two darlings, Lisa.
No, but it's not that they are only concerned about Wi-Fi. It is that, you know, a lot of them have school debt in the $100,000 to $150,000 range, so they can't afford mortgages, so they can't do. They don't have the freedom to buy things that our capitalistic society has, and they have a lot of pressure to perform. There's not that many good entry-level jobs out there for them either. I think it's kind of unfair to characterize them all as just flippant and only interested in technology. That's a part of them, but that is certainly not who they are. And they face challenges that none of our generations have had before. So,
sure.
You know,
well,
I think
generation would get. I stand thoroughly rebuked, but do remember, Lisa, I was quoting a survey. The
Sure.
question was asked of the people in that age group, and those were the answers that they gave. So please don't scold me too much.
Well, it's more like we need to be supporting them and helping them find who they are and helping them develop the skills to be the generation that's going to take over and fix things instead of minimalizing them. I would like to see them supported. And that's what I'm doing my best to do at this point.
Right. No, well, that's very admirable and very good. Let me go on and finish my thought major, which was that I just came to this aha about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was in LA, actually, with Viv on a course. And I just suddenly thought, well, why am I worrying about that age group? You know, I'm 73. They just see me as a silly old fart. And maybe that's not my medium, you know, and maybe I should go back to loving and embracing the older group. So that was my shift and my transition. So it's not so much dismissing the younger folk as thinking, well, how much does my message impact with them? And I'm not sure. So any of you who've got ideas or can crack it or help these people using what we know, I think that's great. But I've got a mission to do, and my mission doesn't even start till we pass 100,000 people. So I'm struggling to get this started. As I say, I've got upwards of 1,000 people now have, you know, bought books, been on a course, and done those things online. But my intention is to shift to live meetings, and I've backed off from this forever, and I don't really know why. Maybe just scared. I don't know, some emotional negative. Me scared, says Malcolm. What?
Well, hang on a minute. Do what you're most scared of. Run at it at 1,000 miles an hour.
I read that somewhere. Oh yes, in my writing. Whatever you're most scared of doing.
Yeah. Go do it.
It's where the most traction comes, right? Thank you for reminding me. And as I say, I'm not sure if it's fear, but probably is. Anyway, I'm going to go on the road. So I'm targeting the second 2 weeks in October. I'm only talking about a weekend, so it's not going to affect me coming up to Rochester. And I've just decided we're going to run it here at the house. You remember the other house where we ran like a 25 people class? It was really good. This is much smaller, but I think we can take 8 or 10 people, and I'm going to run it in intimate. So we're not, in other words, it's going to be an experimental workshop, and charge is just nominal, you know, for like $100 or something, just to cover everybody in quiches and salads and coffee in the morning, late breakfast if somebody wants that when they show up, but no actually particular fees, because I want to just work out how we're going to do this. I have a lot of techniques, and I know of a lot of other techniques that can be quite effective in the subject of relationships. And well, let's cut to the chase and say, I'm going to bring up the subject of love. Now, when I brought this up with Roger a couple of years ago and got quite a painful response, he said, oh, well, that might move you, but it doesn't move everybody. Maybe justice is what's inspiring, or knowledge. You might want to comment in this, Roger, but this is what came over. And not everybody thinks of love as the number one dynamic. Well, I do, actually. But anyway, do you want to say something, Roger, before I storm on?
I knew that that would be right for you. But it is obvious that that's what's right for you. But you'll find that every individual in this group will have their own what's most important to them, and their most wanted want deep down below it.
Okay, well, I just thought that, you know, whatever you think you want, love is going to be behind it. Because you know my saying, and it's
Not
a very
necessarily.
important point.
You
an
keep
axiom.
running that one viewpoint. That's where you're colliding with a brick wall.
Right. Well, I'm not. No, listen, I haven't done this yet. That's why. That's the point. I found I've now probably got the gateway. But if you allow me to expound my axiomatic belief, then it's that love is about our being and what we are. You know, we are love. That's our nature. That's our being. It's not a desirous property. It's like something we have. Well, you know, we don't do it. We don't have it. We don't get it. We don't give it. We are it. Is my view. So. That's why I suppose I consider it would be senior to like justice, getting rich, fulfillment, and all those issues, that it's in back of everything, to use the American expression. Okay, well, you've kindly consented. Let me just babble on, even if you don't like it. Thank you. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm looking at, well, remember loneliness came up. Oh yeah, I've got some new people to come, by the way. It reminded me, Carla was part of those loneliness workshops, and a gal called Anita. I thought we'd just do this first one, this first meeting, but then I'll ask these gals along. You remember we got interested in loneliness last year in the late part of 2017, because it's a huge statistical issue. But again, I failed to find what would really turn people on. You know, I got hundreds to sign up for the webinar, and then almost nobody showed up, about 16 people, you know. So I felt like writing to all the others and saying, well, there's your problem. If you don't damn well interact and show up, how can you be anything but lonely? Of course I didn't, but I felt very strongly inclined to react in that way. But anyway, looking behind what, if you like, there are two issues that might be behind this loneliness thing. One is what Dr. Jonice Webb. Now, I don't know if you know Jonice Webb, Jonice Webb with 2 B's. Jonice Webb. She's come up with a phrase that she calls childhood emotional neglect. I think of it more in terms of love starvation, or the later result anyway, is sort of love starvation. She identifies emptiness, and we've both got that on our write-up, if you like, on the plans. I see emptiness as love starvation. She sees it as childhood emotional neglect. Is it the same thing? The answer is probably yes, but that feeling of running on empty that people do, do we all know what I'm talking about? Have you either felt it at some stage in your life, or at least you've seen it keenly in another human being? So you know what I'm talking about, right? That sort of emptiness and loneliness. Oh yeah, before I go on, can we maybe a few comments back? Is this an emotion? You know, is this empty feeling an emotion? Blaze, please.
My psychologist says no. And I often feel lonely, and she says, no, that's not an emotion. And she comes back to my wounded childhood, or all this sort of stuff. So I'm starting to feel that behind all this is fear, and that, again, fear is a way to point forward and to tackle this. And I often think loneliness is when we haven't tackled our fear.
Yes. Yeah, well, back to the comment Malcolm made, fear is the place where you get the most traction, actually. It's kind of telling you what to do. The more it scares you, the more that's what you should do. Anyway, what about sticking it on our emotional ladder? That's so Blaze's answer is it's not really an
Well,
emotion.
that's my psychologist's answer, okay?
Yeah,
I'm still waffly about it.
Yeah. I think it could be, but where would we put it? We all share something about kind of emotional ladder. We all know that anger's above fear and fear's above grief.
It should be possibly just above fear, because a lot of the time you can't even feel it as fear. It's almost a reluctance to even feel it. So it's under fear. Right?
Below fear.
Yeah, because when you get into fear, you can actually sense the thing you're scared of. Below it, you can't. You don't even know what you're scared of.
Right. Yeah. So below is sort of the griefy sadness layer.
Right. So it's in that little band that says, "Oh, I'm pulling away from this, but I'm not sure why I'm pulling away from it." And if you pull away from it enough, you drop into the sadness, the grief, the "oh dear, should I have gone away?" Or if you go close to it, then the fear comes up. But it's in that almost unconscious band where you don't actually really know what it is you're actually pulling away from or going toward.
Yeah, well, of course, grief is a withdrawal. Fears, it goes in various bands, doesn't it? Outflow and inflow.
Yeah.
But something funny resonated in me when you said that it probably belongs at about the grief level or just below fear. Maybe that's where I thought maybe right at the bottom I was going to debate it. Is it like where you're numb and dead and you don't get it, or
no, it's up
higher
above.
than that? You're saying, yeah?
There's a level just below fear where people go elsewhere from that which they are in fear of.
Yeah, well, elsewareness. Yeah, we know that that approach to life. Yeah, okay. So I shall look at that in what I write and what I do in the workshop. Anyway,
Camilla,
Sorry, what?
Camilla, did you have a comment?
Well, I just had a thought that loneliness has a big element of selfishness. I wonder what you thought about that.
We'd need to explain it for me to agree. Just say a bit more about what you mean.
Because someone is looking inwards and thinking about themselves, they're not thinking about other people.
Right, but you might mean that more as
self-contained.
Yes, but that might be more egotistical than selfish as such. They're not exactly the identical words, although people use them like that. Egotistical means drawn in on yourself and, can't see the wood for the trees. You're just stuck in your own space.
Yes, but that can also be outgoing. Look at me. Whereas the person who's lonely is not saying, look at me.
So you're right. They're actually only looking at themselves.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, all right. It's just that, selfish is a more pejorative word. I'm not going to reject it, but maybe egotistical. Or is it egoistic? Is it egoistic? Go on.
I have a thought.
Yes?
What you said about where the nearest Wi-Fi hotspot is or where the nearest Starbucks is a dramatization of this very insecure loneliness. Because if you're looking to things to satisfy your requirements, isn't that a demonstration of how lonely you really are? How much you can't connect with anybody else?
Right. I'm sure you're right. And, I'll remind you of a statistic I know I've shared with the Knights before, which is the single biggest group who are feeling lonely are not old people, as you'd instinctively think. It's youngsters between 20 and 35 years old. They're by far the biggest demographic that admit to loneliness. And yet they spend all their days on Facebook and stuff. So what's happening? The answer is that Facebook's not connecting them. It's making them feel horribly disconnected. They're seeing all these wonderful lives going by and all these beautiful pictures. I've got a suspicion Lisa would like to step in on this, but I'm just saying my perceptions on it. And also, of course, what people find in numbers and surveys. They are definitely the loneliest group, and yet they're the most connected, and yet they're not really, that, you know, Facebook and these things. What is it? I think Facebook is showing them sort of dream lives that they feel like can never be part of, or something like that. Yeah, does that make sense?
I read recently a book explaining the neurochemistry behind this, and it was admitted as a deliberate ploy using dopamine addiction, that you get a dopamine hit every time you get to the Facebook. And yet dopamine doesn't really satisfy you long term like the other neurotransmitters like oxytocin or stuff like that. And those are shown to come through sharing. So you can't, what we're really seeing is a type of addiction.
Yeah.
And I see people who can't get away from their cell phones, even though it's burning their brain. I see an addiction there. And again, behind all this loneliness is a type of addiction and non-satisfaction. And the same goes for pornography. It's non-satisfaction. It's not getting to love. And so they have to keep on going back for another hit. I mean, this is just one way of looking at it, but it's a valid way, looking at the neurochemistry of it.
Right. No, interesting insight. Thanks, Blaise. And I wonder if anyone's thought of or has already done a test testing Facebook and oxytocin levels. I've got a strong feeling it will be negative.
No, this has been known. This is already known. This is based upon known science, how to make people addicted.
Well, yes, I think I know that shade of science you mean, but what I meant was directly, when you finally get to the Facebook page, do your oxytocin levels go up? Do you know of any work that shows that?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Any of you come across, please let me know. That would be wonderful to share in this particular space, you know, like loneliness versus connectivity. And as I said, it's that age group. And Facebook, it logically ought to solve it, shouldn't it? You feel you belong out there's the world. There's 7 billion people. I'm all connected. But that doesn't happen that way. It's, oh my God, I feel even more lonely. Seems to be the biggest response to this, you know, technological connectivity. Of course, it's easy to point to the difference between warmth, touch, love, emotions, and machines and devices and things. They're poles apart, of course.
Yeah, Keith?
Yeah,
I did see some work. I think it's a collective. I'll try and find a link. Anyway, they have shown in studies that the cell phone and YouTube and all that stuff is addictive, but they didn't get into the biochemistry behind it. Just that there is an addiction there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, dopamine can be highly addictive. We know that. And certainly, you know, it's part of the reward centers for addictive people, addictive behaviors. Anyway, sorry, what? Sorry, did you finish, Roger? Or did I?
No, I just simply said, just simply being acknowledged. You know, people like to know that they're alive. I suppose that helps.
Yeah, I mean, real acknowledgement in it, you know, its fullest sense. You know, granting the person, you know, honoring them there for their presence. I think it goes a long way to healing lives. A long way, and it's something that we should all be in the habit of doing, really. Anyway, I'm hoping that I can get some input from you guys from sharing. It doesn't have to be here and now, but obviously the more we talk about it together, the more fun it will be in the last, you know, 20, 30 minutes. A workshop that I mean, as I said, I'm going for the older demographic. I've changed my mind about saying I need to find a young person who I can fill their heads full of stuff and let them go out and chase the millennials. It will happen by osmosis eventually. I'm just going to go for the people who've expressed confidence and trust in me, and there's, you know, there's more than 160,000 of them. So I'm going to speak to them and their problems. And I must say, the early responses have been very good. I'm going to do this workshop, it's just 2 days, and the theme is basically healing a lifetime of love. Now, not love of a lifetime, because that has a special meaning, doesn't it? Like soulmate. So healing a lifetime of love, though, because a lot of us get to our later lives and realize we screwed it up all the way. And even if we're now in a happy place, you know, there's the first wife, the second wife, depending on who you are, the kids, your mates. You've left a trail of girlfriends and boyfriends and lovers behind you where it's just all heartbreak. And it's really very unnecessary and is very emotionally non-intelligent behaviors, but of course we do it. But what we know, and we're not the only ones, of course, but what we know in Supernoetics is that you can fix all that. Mm-hmm. I think it's true to say, I mean, one of the great pains in life is all the things that we did that we wished we hadn't, but worse than all of that are the things that we didn't do and we wished we had. Well, I think you can turn that around on the love theme as well and say, the loves that were disastrous are probably not nearly as painful as all the things that we didn't do in the name of love. I've always had a saying, if love ever means anything, it doesn't go away. I mean, it can get overlaid, but if it just fades and disappears, it was probably never love in the first place. Probably more to do with just need and desire and those things. But, when my first wife ran off, I always had this strong feeling that the love hadn't gone. It was a very intense feeling, and it wouldn't go away because I did love her. Well, it took me 25 years to get her back into my life and, able to speak nicely and cuddle with me whenever I see her. And I'm very pleased because it sort of vindicates that it was there all the time. And I wish people knew that. But I think it's possible to rework the past experiences and bring the healing. So hence, healing a lifetime of love. And I don't think probably we're going to have to spend months at it, doing every single relationship. I'm sure somebody will get the point after the first few ahas. Malcolm.
So one of the things I've found very useful in this area is to list the things that you should have said to somebody, or the feelings and emotion you should have exchanged with them, even if you do it without their presence or any connection with you, that actually works.
Right.
And it works if you twin two people who have had similar experiences and you get them to do that as if they're talking to the other person.
Right.
Very powerful, extremely clearing, because then it basically breaks down, and what I found happens is it uncovers areas that may need piloting, but those areas are the ones in their lives in this particular, connectivity and the ability to be with others and to connect with others. Those are the things that's stopping them do that, and they might be underneath they might be the entire reason why the relationship fell apart in the first place, or their relationships fall apart, because they're not aware of that. But by doing this, they start to uncover it, and then you can do some very, very exact piloting on that particular area, and that will free up that whole thing. It can be tremendous.
Right.
When I was in Alan Walter's group, I experienced that several times, and it's fantastic results. Fantastic.
I hope you'll become one of my online coaches then when we get this licked. It sounds good.
Well, yes.
Right, but you're right. We have two things where we don't need the other person there. You know, what we call identity dialogue, or whatever you want to call it, where you just pretend you're talking with the person. Can be dead, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. But you still say, if the person was there, what would you like to say to them? How are they going to respond and get this conversation and dialogue going that you should have done like 30 or 40 years ago, but you never did, and the person went and died on you. And it can be very hurtful. So it's a wonderful revelation to people when they realize you can have the dialogue anyway, even if the person's gone. It works, 99.5%. That's good. You just left with that lingering. Sorry, go on. Can I say the other one thing that you don't need the person present for? Then I'll turn it back to you. Which is the other one is forgiveness, of course. You don't need the person there to do forgiveness on them.
Mm-hmm.
Go on. What were you going to say?
Per was going to say something.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something.
Can I add something? I wanted to add something to Malcolm's idea about how to handle when you have upsets in the couple.
Yeah.
A method I have been using many times, and most of the times the problem was handled and they found back together. And in a few times they realized that they should split up, but they did it in understanding of why.
Yes.
So what I did was I put down in each room, they got a lot of clay, and I asked them to show the problem in the relationship in clay. Because if you ask them, then they will very, very soon, they will start, but Aunt Daisy, it said so and so, and you can't follow them. You have to get it down so you can see it in clay. So they both do that, show what they, from their viewpoint, see as a problem in the relationship.
And you have them in separate rooms, yeah, so they can't cross-feed.
They do that. And then you bring them in the same room, and then you ask the one of them, is there anything in the other clay demo you don't understand? And then you get that clarified in clay and back and forth until it's totally clear from both viewpoints what's the problem. Now, then I step in and I ask him, for instance, now I want you to change something in your clay demo which makes the problem in her clay demo disappear or get less. And he immediately said, no, this is
brilliant.
Right? But then you work with him a little and you find a little thing, you know, say, yeah, well, I can change. I can change this. then she gets the same job to change something in her clay demo, which will help the problem in his clay demo. And you work it back and forth. And at some point, they start taking things out of the clay demo, which is a break point. Then all the times I've done it, I end up with the same thing in both clay demos, and that is the reason they have a problem.
This is brilliant, Per.
That is absolutely brilliant.
Then when you've found that, then you can always work out a handling.
Yeah, yes, of course. Once you get the right why, you can get a solution. Brilliant. Hey, listen, while we're on, Malcolm, enjoy yourself, but mute yourself for a minute, will you?
Sorry.
Just spend a minute because while we're talking about these clay boarding techniques and making models, psychic or psychological models, just share with the group, because I think it's brilliant, how you handle that child with stammering. I think it's a lovely story. Will you share it with us?
Sure.
Did that resonate with you, Blaze?
I'm not understanding the clay. I can understand.
Oh, you know a clay where you make models, soft stuff. Yeah, well, you can make a model of a person and their psychic space, and here's that problem, and here's this communication sequence. You can put it all into solid form using clay mock-ups.
That sounds brilliant. The three-dimensional.
It goes right back to Rudolf Steiner, actually.
I mean, do you have to be artistic with this?
No, it can be absolutely crap. It just has to look like a person. It doesn't have to have 5 toes and 5 fingers. It's just a blob that's clearly a human, and you need to know which human, so you label it Mary, and so on. But then you can also lay out the psychic space that Mary's got, you know, her worries and her headaches and her past experiences. Anyway, let Per take over this one and see if it clarifies it for you. Okay. Would you share the stammering story, please?
So this was a girl. She was 10 years old, and I was doing some piloting with her. She was a heavy stammerer, and I asked her for recent incidents. She was stammering, and we cleared that. And then earlier, you know, good old Freudian style. If it doesn't blow, there's something earlier, right? Mm-hmm. So we went back to when she was about 2 months old. And she got into an incident. She couldn't lift. She couldn't explain. She just started to stammer so heavily that the whole body was shaking, and she couldn't do anything about it. Then I asked her to show to me what happened in clay. And she made a beautiful clay demo of her sitting on a horse cart next to her, on her mother's lap next to the father, and he was driving the horse cart into the ditch, and she could see that. And she wanted to warn him, but she had no language to do it with. So it was this urge to say something, can't do it. Urge to say something, can't do it. Urge to say something, has no language. And that made the stammering, because when she's done that whole clay demo, I asked her parents to come in, and I told her, can you please explain to mommy and daddy what this is? And she explained, blah, 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 boom, and she stopped stammering.
Never since. Amazing story, isn't it? I'm so.
And I had actually met her
hear that.
sort of 30 years later. It stopped there, right there.
Yeah.
She never stammered again.
Wonderful. I'm glad you retold it, actually, Peg, because I hadn't got the idea it was so early, you know, like it was like 2 months. I thought it was
it was just a baby sitting in her mother's lap.
Gosh, very perceptive baby. Anyway, yeah.
Hmm?
Okay, how did we get onto clayboard demonstrations? I can't remember, but I think
Malcolm talked about how to handle the marriage problems.
Oh yeah.
You asked for it.
And this sort of, pretend communications, they're extremely powerful. I mean, it's like journaling, isn't it? I mean, in a journal, for yourself, you can have this imaginary dialogue. You're either talking to yourself with, a dear diary or whatever you're doing. Communication can be extremely powerful, especially if it's focused. If you just ramble, that's called psychoanalysis. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It might. But if you've got a focused question, you're like, when did my headaches start? I mean, sooner or later, something's going to come to the surface that you'd forgotten about, that was buried. So it can be a very powerful tool. I don't teach journaling, particularly. It's not so much part of the Supernoetics model, but I know a lot of people get tremendous benefits out of journaling. And if you haven't got any kind of therapist or friend or someone to share with, it's a great way to go. So I suppose clay is a more advanced version of that, do you think, Per?
Yeah. It's just, to get a balance between the ideas and all these thoughts, milling around in your head, and then get it down to something massive, which other people can see.
Yeah, so Korzybskian really, what he called extensional and intentional meanings, or the concrete and the concept, the actuality and the concept of it. Yeah, okay, and I'm going to do this workshop. I don't think trying to teach people how to do clay models would work in a short, 2-day weekend. But when you're here, I'd love to talk about maybe creating a whole workshop tool out of that. Because I know you're very good at it. You're my master. You're the person I'd ring up for advice on that. Because of these, amazing changes that you've got in people using it.
Yeah.
I've never actually, anyone studied much about Rudolf Steiner's use of it? I know he used to use squelchy clay rather than the modeling artistic stuff that we've got.
No, I don't.
Nobody? Yeah, okay. I'll see what I can find for another time. But anyway, I've got enough to work with. I mean, we have this pretend dialogue, what we call identity dialogue. We've got the forgiveness process, which, forgiveness is very powerful. If you do enough forgiveness on people, sooner or later, they're going to call you. They just will. In fact, for many psychic exploration, that's the result you're looking for, and you don't quit until the person communicates with you again. And it's quite spooky either way. Anyone, I could give examples, but anyone else got their example of how this works?
Oh, I've got that.
Come on, Bob.
Yeah, well, I've worked with a few couples who were on the verge of divorce, and the model I used there pretty much fits in with what you're doing, Keith. Is I would have them list the things that set them off about their partner, why they were so angry, and then I just use the processes I used to take them back to where that started, along the lines that you do in piloting. Release the emotional charge, help them to see it differently. And once they had the emotional charge around those things gone, it disappeared. Now, a variation on that, there's been a few women come to me who have had cut off from their children. They wouldn't talk to them anymore. And in that case, I used age regression to take them back to when they were first given their child, their baby. That's assuming there was love there and the mother wanted the child, of course. And then had her feel that love that she has for this infant that just came from the other side, from the arms of God, so to speak. And as she was feeling that, it gives the suggestion, now you're tuning yourself to that infinite ocean of God's love. Because we're immersed, all religious traditions that I've studied anyway, have their core that the nature of the divine is love. Coming back to your earlier starting point, Keith.
Yeah.
I agree totally with you that there's nothing but love. Love is the composition of the chair you're sitting in, the clothes, everything. There's only one presence. We exist as a thought form, an idea within the quantum field or the mind of God, as you prefer. That's all that exists. So, and if the nature of that being is love, which there's so much evidence that that's the case, then I would suggest to this mother who's had trouble with her child, as you open your heart to that love. And I can feel the palatable energy of the heart change. And you're tuning yourself like a radio or a television to that infinite ocean of love that's all around you. And feel that coming into you. Let it fill you. And now let that go to your daughter, to your son. Sometimes the phone is ringing while we were doing the session or shortly after.
Even while doing the session, wow.
So it comes back to, you know, the nature, our essential being, we are that divine source that created everything with it. In the beginning was the Word. Well, the Word, the undertone of that word is love. Even Alexander, the neurosurgeon you probably read about, Proof of Heaven, he was, I wouldn't call him non-spiritual, but he was non-metaphysical by any means. And when his patients would have these astounding things, he would just pat him on the shoulder. Well, that's nice. Because he was a scientist, you know, it was just an aberration of the brain. But when he had his near-death experience, and he was being monitored 24/7, because it's his center that he worked in and teaches and does surgery, and they monitor it 24/7. There was no brain activity. He had no sense of being a male, a human, anything like that. But he encountered this being that he's began to identify as Om, because that was the vibration coming from it. And that's the vibration that was giving rise to all the material and material universes.
Mm.
So we come back to love is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was, you know,
Right.
These are intertwined. But the nature of that vibration is love. That means that we just sort of covered it over with a bunch of sludge.
Yeah, it's there. It doesn't go away, but you just lose connection with it.
That's the way I deal with those things, is to.
Would you just take a minute, Bob, just to share your understanding of the connection between being forgiving then and going out for love, or using love as the flow, or forgiveness? Of course, there's very little difference, but any sharings on that? Should we just move on?
Could you restate that about forgiveness?
Well, yeah, I mean, pushing forgiveness out to somebody also results in them coming back in your direction and reconnecting. And as we know, you push love out, then they will come back and reconnect. So they must be very similar, even though we use the word love and then we use the word forgiveness.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of ways of working with it depending on the person, as all of you know. And some might be just like a Gestalt process, but I do these things in hypnosis. So the person's perceptions are greatly altered and able to encompass a greater variety of experiences where they actually can become the other person. And they have them replay a scene that was disturbing, and they're suddenly attuned to the other person and what they're experiencing. And you can do double sharing around it in hypnosis, whatever way you want to proceed from there. To the release. Those are just a few. Every person is different, of course, every circumstance. But those are just a few in my mind.
Excuse me being distracted while you were saying beautiful things, but I suddenly realized I'm not hearing you. I'm just hearing you via the computer. I'm wearing this thing, and it's taken me nearly 50 minutes to realize there's nothing coming through the goddamn headphones. I am so sorry. Give me a minute to reconnect, or it's not going to happen. No, you see, it says it's on the headphones. It says up there, it's, can I do it in Zoom? Does somebody know if we can do that in Zoom? Change what I'm using in Zoom. I'm not sure I can. There's mute, of course, but oh crap. Okay, listen, I'll give it. I just turn the sound up. In fact, I'll take the dancing. Can you hear me if I speak like this?
Barely.
Not so.
All right, so you need this.
You took the mic off also.
So what?
You took the microphone off also.
Yeah. Well, I'm still not getting anything here. As I said, it took me 50 minutes for the penny to drop. And obviously something is working, but not the input. Anyway, that was very lovely, Bob, and I agree. I mean, some of you use slightly different language, but we're on the same page, basically. Whatever it is, love and being certainly aren't very far apart. or if they're probably identical. And I've tried to find some kind of word or concept for that, and I came up with enfoldment. That as non-material beings, we're out there everywhere, trees, walls, rocks, oceans, planets, we're in it all and through it all. And enfoldment seems to be the word that suited it best for me. Anyone like that word? If somebody says, what's love? Well, it's enfoldment. Malcolm, yeah. No, unmute yourself.
I like that. But that seems to be more in on self. It's a good word. I
don't get what you're saying. Why? To me, enfold is to go out and get something, and
right. Okay.
Or to encompass it. You know, to encompass things.
Encompassing.
But enfoldment is a nicer word for love. I'm not trying to bully you into accepting it.
I'm just trying to. I need to look up the definition, I think, and look at it in my own context.
Yeah,
it's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
You could use two words like permeatively perceiving something.
Right.
But Keith, I found out how you adjust your earphones if you still need to.
Yeah, well, I can hear you in a way, but I'd much rather it was here.
Yeah, well, I can tell you how to fix it. Go down to your computer toolbar, and you'll see where your Zoom is. You've got two little Zoom icons, one's on top of the other. Bring up your free account, click on the bottom where it's got one where you're running a meeting, and then click on the free account, and you'll get a second window open up. And in settings, you can hit that, and you can fiddle with all of your gear. You can change your microphone and earphones and all that shit. You see what I'm talking about?
The only thing is I'm not finding the icon that you're leading me to. There's one small blue video icon right in the... I'm on Mac, and this is in the dock.
Oh, you're in Mac. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't know what the dock is, Zoom is in the dock, but beyond that... And I brought up system preferences, and it says input sound is the headset. If I look at output sound, it says the headset. So I'm left confused.
Well, what I'm looking at, that would be called the audio, and then you go in and fix the audio from in there.
Yeah, we'll have to leave it today. We're nearly at the end.
Yeah, you can figure it out for next time.
Yeah. Okay, well...
Another thought, Keith.
Who's that? Where?
Bob.
Oh, Bob. Hi, Bob. Yeah.
Another thought that came to mind, that you're all, of course, I suspect, aware of the really great research coming out of the Heart Math Institution.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Magic.
We have a feeling, you know, the EKGs of a normal, frustrated Western, of course, we've exported it to the whole world now. It's a jagged pattern like this. But then somebody that's trained in metta, loving kindness meditation of the Buddhist tradition, they trace out a smooth sine wave form, peak-to-peak ratio of what's known as the golden mean, the most efficient, I understand, in physics, the most efficient ratio for the transmission of information and energy without loss or distortion. And they've developed instrumentations that, as we come into that feeling of appreciation of anything, it doesn't have to be spiritual, love, appreciation, feeling good, then what it does, we send out, our heart rhythm can be detected 20, 30 feet away in the heart rhythms of other people. So we're affecting everyone. And of course, even though, you know, the intensity diminishes perhaps at the inverse of the square of the distance, we know that a wave field effect goes on forever. So we're affecting everyone.
Yeah.
So anything one can do then in this mode, it's just another element of what you're talking, I think, about. And other research has shown that there's some new meditations that have come out based on science that show you can fairly quickly, using particular practices that they distilled out from all the garbage and rubbish of rituals, particular practices will quickly engender a parasympathetic vagus nerve response. And get the brain into very close to an awakened mind profile that they develop based on Maxwell Cade's work with the Dalai Lama's advanced meditators. And we come into that rhythm and then begin to add in the heart breathing of appreciation and love. It entrains every aspect of our being. The immune system, the heart entrains the brain, everything, and all the different frequencies, which they've expanded from, just as I used to know, you know, the delta, beta, alpha, and then the beta, and then there's high beta, which is associated with anxiety states, and then there's gamma above that, starts at 40, and at 40 hertz, the brain begins to reorganize, the energy swishes back and forth, begins to communicate at different levels. We have the aha moments in gamma, where you have that breakthrough for the word you're looking for, or, oh, now I know how to make that light bulb. So those happen in gamma frequencies, and then there's lambda above that. I won't go into that at the moment. But anyway, the point is that the heart entrains all of these, and these are carrier frequencies. If you think of AM or FM radio, your voice doesn't extend beyond the walls, but you modulate a carrier frequency, you can carry the information around the globe. Well, each of these brainwave frequencies are carrier frequencies. And many of us, the alpha is not sufficiently developed to be the carrier frequency to bring the information up from the deep subconscious all up through the other levels and integrate them. When you focus on the heart, that integration takes place and we become a coherent whole.
Right. Theta goes deeper into the subconscious and relatively unavailable memories and creative awareness and so on. And don't forget, Bob, there are devices, you know, like I help market one called the Casino, which is marvelous. It's got a mixture of voice and beautiful music and binaurals. And I've got several meditations where I do talk about the Buddhist metta, or the loving, giving meditation, Ho'oponopono and so on. We all know those. But listen, you've triggered something I want to share before we go, because I'm conscious, you know, most of us only got an hour typically. I want to share a book which I've just recently, in fact, it's been many years since I sat down and read a book in one go. It was just like wham. And it's called Human Heart, Cosmic Heart. And it's by a doctor called Thomas Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. And he's into things like Rudolf Steiner and stuff, but he's also into hard science like me. The first few chapters are about the fact that the heart isn't a pump and the heart doesn't pump blood. That's bullshit that everybody believes, but it's complete bullshit. I was going to put that in my Medicine Beyond, but I lost my nerve at the last minute because there wasn't quite, I mean, I believe it. And this idea comes from Rudolf Steiner, incidentally. But I didn't have enough hard evidence to justify it. But now there is. I don't know if any of you have heard of a book called The Fourth Phase of Water. I'll just like 2 sentences. Water has 3 main phases, water, steam, and ice, like solid, liquid, and gas. But there's a 4th phase, which is close to hydrophilic surfaces, which means, you know, water-friendly surfaces. We're talking things like surface tension, all sorts of cute stuff. Let's not get too technical. But there's this small layer of negatively charged water ions, I should say. Long story short, you can't stop them flowing. They'll go straight through anything. That's how the trees 300 feet high are able to get water to the top, because there's no other known scientific way. You know, gravity will take it to about 30 feet. You can pull it another 10 feet maybe with surface tension, but there's no way you're going to get the other 250 odd feet to the top of a tree. It's not possible. The mechanism is this 4th phase of water, a hydrophilic layer, where it's just sucked. And what Cowan is saying is that that's how blood gets through the capillaries. The heart appears to pump, but he explains why the heart is not there to pump. It actually is there to create vortexes. And what actually drags blood through the capillaries is this hydrophilic 4th phase of water effect. Very convincing. That's the first 2 or 3 chapters, right? The rest is all about the heart and love, and that's why I'm telling you. It's a lovely book, very beautiful. And I recommend that we all read it. And
Human Heart.
Who's speaking? Oh, Bob. Again?
Name of the book again?
Human Heart, Cosmic Heart.
Ah, okay.
There are just 4 words in the title. And if you know, unfortunately, it's not here. Otherwise, I'd wave it for you. But it was recommended to me by my friend Robert Slovak, who's a sort of wizard at water. He's one of the granddaddies of water science. He knows almost everything. You know, I call him up if I got questions about reverse osmosis and water ions and things like that. He knows stuff, and he told me about this book. It's lovely. It's very beautiful. Okay, well, what I want to finish by asking is, with agreement, but if I can mail you some of my ideas for this workshop, can you help construct it or add thoughts? You know, let's try and, ultimately I'm going to be responsible for it, but, you know, at short notice, I'd love other people's input and ideas.
I'd love to help, Keith.
Yeah, please, Malcolm, that's great. And it's lovely to, I haven't talked to you for weeks, man. You know, we did. In fact, you might even remember you promised me a testimonial, possibly.
Yeah, I've been outlandishly busy. So, yes, I'll get onto it.
Well, since it's my fault you're busy now, I'll take it on the chin, right? Malcolm has now got more work that he can possibly cope with, haven't you? Which is wonderful. Yeah. And by the way, this group hasn't congratulated you on your American citizenship. That arrived a few weeks ago. He's now a naturalized American as well as a good British citizen.
Yeah, and we used our passports to re-enter the US for the first time this week. We went up to Niagara Falls on the Canadian side, so that was a wonderful experience. Actually,
What, you mean you got your American passport? And
absolutely, 2 weeks after we applied for them.
Yeah, wham bam, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so welcome to the world of joint citizenship. We now have the 2 most dangerous passports in the world, the British and the American, thanks to Tony Blair and W. Bush. Blast your eyes, both of you. Anyway, listen, it's been lovely reconnecting. I will make sure, you know, other people are sharing their themes next time, but I did want to share this workshop and get it moving. Any kind of help, ideas, input. Malcolm, thank you very much. I'll just keep emailing you bits and pieces and see what you think. I'm looking forward to seeing Per, who can look over my shoulder, and it's lovely to talk, Lisa. I hope you're kindly towards me at the end. I wasn't trying to knock young people, but the survey was pretty brutal. I don't know. I wish I could find out what they do want. I mean, clearly they know. Everybody knows that, you know, finding a Wi-Fi spot isn't going to solve that. I think relationships is probably the thing that bothers them most, don't you? I mean, I'm thinking of Zoe. I know nothing about your son.
Sure. What I find is that we're all alike. Age doesn't really matter. A lot of the same fears and desires and loves, everything else is just the same whether you're 5 or 500. I find that they have the same sort of emotional upsets and experiences that all the rest of us have. So, I mean, I think if you could word your message to them, you could certainly draw interest, because all of them are exceptionally, they have difficulties just like everyone else. Yeah. So, you know, I wasn't meaning to be rude there in the beginning either.
I knew you were rude, but I thought you were a stern critic. You always have been, as you know. You don't let me get away with bullshit, that's for sure.
But they would benefit by what you're doing very much. If there were a way to market to them, I would love to see that actually happen.
That's what we've got to find. Now, I've got a new wizard. I've got to tell you, my existing team are a bit sluggish on the Supernoetics stuff. But we've got a new guy called George, lovely guy. He's in Los Angeles. We met twice. He came to the house. We went down to meet with him. I've got high hopes that he knows how to open doors. He's been highly successful with at least 2 people. A guy called Manny Goldman. I don't think he's a particularly nice human being, but he managed to successfully put together a vast empire based on women's things. You know, how a Jewish man would know what most women are interested in, I don't know. But anyway, he made some success, certainly in the marketing he did. And then Ty Bollinger, I don't know if you all know him, he did The Truth About Cancer, shot the list up to like 1 million subscribers and so on. Mostly the work of this guy, George Kahira. George got tired of being working round the clock for very little money. He's gone freelance, but he's now working with me, not full-time, but he's a very valuable ally. So that might make some difference too. We've got to find out how to get to the people that want what we've got and then how to give it to them. There are two separate problems. Got to solve the first one first. All right, well, thanks for sharing. It was really nice for us all to get together again. Loved it. Absolutely had a whale of a time. Thanks. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Whoa. Bye.